Well, welcome to another episode of Click Happens. My name is Doug Kreitzberg, CEO of SeedPod Cyber. We're a cyber insurance underwriter, managing general agency. We work with MSPs to help them secure themselves with regards to insurance, as well as their clients. And with me, I'm joined, as usual, by Sinclair Morris, who runs our partnerships, and with Kyle Sadi, who's our CRO and EVP of underwriting. Sinclair, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Did everybody win the Golden Globes that you think would?
Oh, I don't watch that stuff.
That's all right. I was just wondering. I just thought about the Golden Globes. I didn't watch it either. Kyle, did you watch the Golden Globes?
No, whenever they were, I was probably still pouting about the Eagles loss. So
probably the Philadelphia Eagles. Yes, that's some of us are fans, and it's tough. But we won't talk about that. We'll talk about something that's exciting, such as cyber insurance, cyber security here, and this is we're 2025 or 2026 now. Goodness, and as usual, this time of year, where you hear the prognostications of what's going on in cyber insurance and what to expect. There was a recent report by broker Gallagher Re, actually a reinsurer, Gallagher Re, as well, with regards to the cyber marketplace. Kyle, what did they have to say that we need to know about?
Yeah, always a good, helpful report. Good broker there, John Farley, that always gives good insight. But there's a lot of themes that are usual: concerns around ransomware, concerns about third-party claims, privacy issues, all of that stuff. But there was one thing that stuck out to me that I felt was a little different, and is something I've been hearing about, and it's a trend that needs to be figured out. And I guess it's not shocking. It's around AI. I feel like we talk about AI probably once on the podcast, and everybody keeps talking about AI because it's coming, it's here, it's all of that. We're figuring out how to use it in our daily lives. But the concern in this report really put out, what does it mean when AI starts creating issues and that leads to losses in insurance? And we've talked about AI and cyber insurance here before, with companies using AI to fight threat actors using AI to attack. We've hit that, but it's other things like, what if you're a hospital and you start using AI to write prescriptions per se, and it gives the wrong prescription, someone dies? Is that, that would traditionally fall under like a med mal policy. Is that going to cover in that situation? If you have a tech company, we work with MSPs, and they start outsourcing some of the tech or their functions to AI, and there's losses from that, which should typically be like a negligence trigger, that sort of thing. Is insurance going to cover that? You can think of those scenarios. There's a million of them, and you can think of different industries and what that means. Kind of some of it getting into bodily injury and property damage. But I think that's what folks are trying to wrap their hands around. What does that mean for insurance? Are carriers going to intend to cover these AI type losses? Again, coming back to cyber insurance, I actually do think it's not as difficult, just because whether a ransomware attack occurs because of an AI event or AI is involved in the protection and it doesn't work, that, it's pretty well known the coverage should trigger in that circumstance. But I just think there's a lot of questions around AI right now.
Right. And is it a coverage issue, or is it an underwriting issue? In other words, are we talking about, like an example of prescriptions? I would assume at some point somebody's got to authorize the subscription, other than just the algorithm here, and so presumably the coverage is there. But will it be more of a, hey, are we going to, if you are using AI as part of your prescription, decision making, is that, what do we need to know in order to get comfortable with the risk?
That's a really good question. I think it's both, and I think it can depend on the scenario or the coverage. I think if you see a loss related to, going back to this prescription example, and it's found out that AI was behind it, if a policy is not already going to be excluding that, but then I think the carrier is going to think about, should we A, be excluding this scenario, or B, should we be underwriting to it? And then you have to put, thought leadership into, all right, what kind of controls can this business have in place to make sure that they can use AI, but this doesn't happen again? So I think it can be both. It's a really good point.
Yeah, I guess is, to the point you raised, that this is similar to the quote unquote silent cyber times when there, conceivably in the general liability packages, carrier or businesses could claim some type of loss from a cyber related event just because of the coverage wording. I won't say poorly wording. It was just because of the coverage wording, and they began to specifically exclude the cyber because they really wanted to push it over to a cyber policy that was appropriately underwritten to a risk like that. And so maybe that's what we'll start seeing here going forward. Sinclair, are you hearing anything from the MSPs with regards to how they're approaching AI, and what are they, if they're recommending anything with regards to AI to their clients, or even with regards to themselves, or is it still too early yet for the MSP market?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit too early. I'm definitely hearing more about AI in conversations with MSPs. And there's like two different kinds of MSPs, right? There's the ones who are like, AI is awesome. We want to use it to leverage, as many elements of our workflow as we can. And then those who are still a bit timid to come to it and are fearful for what that will mean for them. So yeah, I feel like there's two very different kinds of people who are looking at AI and what it, what opportunities and risks it poses. Yeah.
Yeah, so it really hasn't come there, and then part of that is the space of the MSPs focus in, which is largely the SMBs, small medium-sized business space, and I think it's still early days as far as adoption within those types of businesses of AI tools, as well as what the potential risks are there. Certainly from and I think the MSPs that are leaning into AI with regards to their clients are focused really on kind of some basic blocking and tackling with regards to security. Do you know what data you have there? Do you know where it is? Do you know how long you're holding on to it and why you're holding on to it there? How are you classifying it between confidential or public there? And then obviously, what's your policies regarding letting your staff use third-party tools? How well you're managing that, especially with regards to their access to that data. So those are things that, quite frankly, businesses should always be paying attention to. Now with AI in place, it's heightened the attention to data and the kind of the governance, so to speak, around it there. And businesses are also, as they're grappling with AI and grappling with technology, they're looking more and more towards MSPs. The MSP marketplace is certainly continuing to expand here. What, as businesses are evaluating, what MSP, to go to, how do they make a decision? It's very hard right now. And Sinclair, what are you, what kind of a guidance would you give?
Yeah. And I mean, and this is something we've definitely talked about. There's a lot of things if I was an SMB owner that I would be taking into consideration. But definitely among the top would be like a proactive approach to risk and security. In that, we're not going to offer you a la carte, what you think you need. We're going to give you a suite of products that are going to work to protect you, and we're going to manage them accordingly. So I think that would be the biggest thing, is staying away from those, onesie, twosie. That's what you're hiring the MSP for. And they know the best way to protect you, and that's through offering, a variety of services, not just pieced together solutions.
Right. There and at the same time, though, the folks in the businesses now with AI, they all think they can be their own MSP, right? They can just throw it into, instead of calling my neighborhood MSP, I can throw it into chat, figure out, what Microsoft license do I need, get it, and then how do I configure it, get it. At some point, though, and this is just the reality, that becomes a little too much. And how much time do you really want to spend doing that versus growing your business there? How are MSPs kind of adjusting, though, to this environment where the businesses may want to do a little bit more with regards to technology?
Yeah, well, I mean, for an MSP to be able to translate certain solutions to, real life business situations, risk mitigation, but also like, increasing downtime, or, decreasing downtime, incident response. So I think just tailoring solutions and the ability to learn about the business and then use their expertise to tailor those services.
Right. And I think too, just to follow on what you said, it's it's those MSPs that really are defining on I think either the security side or the business process side. There often it may be the two, but saying we're going to give you a secure solution. You're just going to start off. You're going to be secure. Your guys, we know you're going to start fooling around. You're going to start doing stuff here. You're going to try to push the envelope, and that's good as long as it's good for your business there. But you're going to be the judge of that. But just know that what we're going to put in place is going to protect you through that, and that's going to be a differentiating thing than, hey, I'm the guy that will plug in your devices. You need a laptop, I'll give it to you, and I'll configure things. And I think that those that differentiate and can show, signals, so to speak, outcomes in terms of security, such as, we're in the business, such as lower insurance premiums, right? Or easier access to premiums there. They're going to be the ones that are going to win out over those that are continuing to just try to compete on price and quote unquote customer service, which is kind of a moving target in the good days, let alone kind of fast changing days, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. No. Well, it was an interesting conversation that I had with an MSP the other day about EDR and it being like 24/7 monitored, so maybe an XDR solution in this case, and how they learned after working with a few different products that it wasn't actually 24/7. It was pretty much just a middleman. They were then alerting the MSP at 2 a.m. that something needed to be addressed rather than deploying something immediately.
Sure.
And putting a fix themselves. So, just understanding, I guess, the differences, the nuance of these different products and solutions that are on the market.
Yeah, there's a lot out there. Kyle, what's your take? What should businesses be looking to for their IT provider?
So I agree with everything you guys said. And Sinclair, what you just mentioned, that's a perfect example of a normal business isn't going to know, but the MSP will have the experience with which tools are right and really provides the security. But I think clients should be asking their MSP not only what they're willing to provide, which is hopefully a full tech stack of security, but what do you actually have on your back end? Are you actually putting these controls in place for yourself? What does that look like? How serious do you take all of this? Do you
Yeah.
purchase insurance because, and again, that's where our space is, but are you purchasing tech and cyber insurance? What are your limits? Because if something happens, we want to make sure you're not going to fold tomorrow, which I have actually seen before because a company hasn't purchased insurance, them go out of business pretty quickly. So I think those are some of the things that are really important. And then I think there's also, there's plenty of MSPs out there that are single branded and do a great job, but there's also some franchises out there that you kind of know with every single new MSP that signs up that there's minimum requirements to be part of that franchise. Obviously, I'm thinking of one in mind that we work with, where there's minimum tech stack requirements, minimum insurance requirements, minimum strong MSA contractual language, that sort of thing. So that's another thing to kind of make sure that, okay, maybe this MSP I'm working with individually is new, but they're part of a larger brand that has a really good reputation and has years of experience. So I think that's another way to look at it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's hard to, as a business, a couple things. It's hard to, judge the MSP and know, and there, you mentioned franchises, which are good because there aren't like a lot of brands out there, right? At least serving the small and medium sized business owner on a large scale. And then the other thing is, and I had one business person tell me that he was very scared of using MSPs because of the, because they wouldn't be large enough to be able to, kind of provide any type of restitution if there was a claim here to that business. If I'm they're small businesses and often, and we see it, they have $1 million of limits. They may have 30 clients. And it won't take long if there is an event that hits that they hack the MSP, gets to the 30 clients. You just divide by 30 by a million, just as rough math, and you kind of see that there may be not a lot to play with at the end of the day, if you had to go back towards the MSP. And it's not like the MSP is going to be sitting on a lot of assets outside of the insurance either. So it's making sure that your MSP is dialed in on their own security and has adequate insurance at the same time, certainly is really critical there. And that, and we work with MSP partners. One of the things that we do in terms of evaluating partners ourselves is what is their security controls? Are they dialed in there? And that's very important there. Great. And that kind of leads to just a brief. We don't have a lot of time left, but in the time that we do, is just talking about what risk is. We talk about insurance, we talk about security. And it all has to deal with risk. And I've been thinking about it heavily because we're making some changes to our underwriting criteria and we're automating certain things. And we, you have the opportunity to kind of look at things with fresh eyes. And basically it starts down with what is the risk, and the risk is just a math equation. The frequency times the impact is what the risk is. So it ultimately ends up being a number. The frequency is what's the, what are the chances that something bad will happen, and how often would it, do those chances occur? And then the impact is, the dollars that it's going to cost me if that bad things occur. And so if there's a 20% likelihood of something bad to happen, and the impact of it could be $3 million, It's 20% times 3,600,000 is that risk to me here. And we talk about this with MSPs as a way to really frame the discussions with their clients along these lines, because a lot of what the MSP is doing is if they're doing a good job, they can focus on certainly the frequency. How do we reduce the frequency? What are the controls that we put in place? Multi-factor authentication, patching, EDR, endpoint detection and response. Those things help to reduce the frequency. And then what do we do to help the impact? Some of it's outside of our control. Regulations are going to have a big deal with impact, right? If I'm a regulated environment, or if I'm a large company and I go down for a month, that's going to be a large impact in terms of lost profits. But there are things I can do, such as make sure that you have good backup in place, and make sure that you have strong, incident response measures in place here. That you have a plan, and that we're reviewing it there as well. How well do you think MSPs are, Sinclair, in terms of communicating risk, and what, when you talk to the partners, how are you kind of able to get them to understand, thinking about cost of risk and as a way to help them sell their services to the clients?
I mean, I think some are definitely better than others. But I do see that happening increasingly. And I mean, even with our audit, with the risk profile that it provides, kind of framing that position from the beginning, I definitely see how MSPs react to that. And I can see the wheels turning on how they may be able to incorporate that as well. Risk is, I think, it's very ambiguous to business owners who haven't gone through it or seen it firsthand. Funny enough, I was just speaking with one of our partners' clients who'd been with them for 15 years. And about 8 years ago, a new board member came on. It was a nonprofit. And they said, this is just too expensive, what we're paying this MSP. So they cut their services, took an approach like what you said, Doug. They think they can do this. I don't know what controls were implemented at that point, but not even 6 months later, they lost all of their data. Now, this is a privately operated nonprofit. They've got sensitive donor information. They do senior work. They were down, unable to support their seniors and their mission. I mean, this is such a great example of the investment that your investment into your MSP and the services they're performing, and how that works out, when you don't have those things in place.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I just read an article yesterday about an insurance carrier. Actually, it was a lawsuit, the actual document where against an insurance carrier. So this is a carrier that allegedly is supposed to know risk, where the chief operating officer said they had an extremely high tolerance for risk. And of course, they had a cyber event and they breached data, and they're being sued by a lot of people right now here. You have to. It's okay to take risk. I mean, businesses need to take risk, otherwise they wouldn't survive. You can't grow without risk, but you have to. It's a calculated risk, right? You have to know how to calculate it, and you have to understand. Okay, do I want to put? If the risk to me is $600,000, do I want to put that on the balance sheet in case I need it to write that check, which is okay. Some decide to do that, the self-insurance. Or do I want to put the controls in place to reduce that 600,000 and then take the rest and insure it? So even if it turns into a $3 million once in a lifetime event, I'm covered. Kyle, how do you I mean, you've been in insurance obviously for a long time. How do you see the conversations about risk when in the business world or MSPs? And even within the insurance, do you think there's an adequate understanding of it?
Yeah, when Sinclair was talking, I was picturing there's this meme that goes around the cyber insurance industry, and it's like the IT's budget before a cyber event, and they're like counting the quarters, and then it's like after a cyber event, and it's like money's falling down from the skies. To me, there's the two conversations of like an insurance purchase to help mitigate the risk, but then the actual control piece, that one, I always struggle. Doug, you were just giving an example back to the insurance piece of sometimes companies are big enough where they'll say, you know what, we know that we can take this from a balance sheet and we're just going to do that. And I can understand that concept. Usually in those circumstances, you still have a well-run organization that has set up vendor relationships. Because remember, insurance isn't just about the financial repayment. It's about getting access to those law firms, the breach coach, all of that stuff. And really good companies that decide not to insure will still do all of those things and have those in place. The control piece, I struggle when occasionally in the past I've met an organization that has proactively decide not to invest in technology and security and controls. I do understand handicapped of, I've worked with hospitals that want to do more and just have, a limited budget. But to me, if you're deciding as an organization not to put that investment and gamble on the control side, it's a big brand issue. It's a massive brand issue. And, again, it's odds, just like going to casino. Will you have a situation that really triggers a big loss? The larger the loss, the less percentage that you'll have it. I've also been part of a $80 million paid claim before. Like they happen. So if you're a smaller organization, are you going to have $1 million loss? Maybe it's not the biggest likelihood, but it can happen. And if you're not investing in those controls, you're definitely taking on a big risk. So yeah, I guess, I have a little bit more sympathy when a company makes a decision not to purchase insurance, take that gamble, and there's good reasons behind it. On the control side, I struggle with that unless you really have a limited budget and can only do so much.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. Well, thanks everyone for participating yet again. Thanks, Kyle and Sinclair. And I wish everyone all the best and a risk-free rest of this week. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.